What's up everyone, Mark here and welcome to another episode of Down the Road, where I cover various topics of historical interest and significance right here in my home state of Rhode Island. In our very first episode, I told you about the history of local retailing pioneer Ann & Hope, where the familiar and ubiquitous department store format of today was first established in the middle of the last century. If you haven't seen it yet, then I definitely recommend you check it out. But another kind of retailing was far more important, far earlier, long before Ann & Hope was ever on the scene, and Rhode Island was at the forefront there too. The country store, or general store, encompasses the idea that you can get everything that you need for your everyday life from one place in your community. But unlike the sprawling department stores we know today, a country store manages to accomplish the same thing in a comparatively tiny footprint by carrying just a few top quality products across many categories. In one place, you could pick up your meat, rice, sugar, tools, tractor parts, clothing, fabric, and chicken feed. That might sound like a great convenience, and in many ways it was, but the reality is that it's a concept born out of necessity. Before the advent of the automobile, travel was tedious and slow. Even relatively short distances we'd consider trivial now were far from it 200 years ago, and the multiple store shopping trip of today would have taken days in travel time alone. Though many were no larger than today's convenience stores, the broad variety of product categories available made country stores the primary shopping destination for residents to purchase their general goods day to day. These small, everything stores were able to tailor their offerings to both local tastes and specific preferences as relationships developed between a proprietor and their clientele. Relationships with larger distributors and importers even enabled a wider assortment of items to be sold if a customer was only willing to wait for them to be shipped to the store for later pickup. Additionally, the general store served as a trading post for the community. Local farmers would find an outlet for their fresh eggs, dairy, and crops in exchange for either money, the goods they needed, or credit towards other merchandise in the store. In this way, the local general store also came to function as a meeting spot and community hub. As populations grew in the first half of the 20th century and beyond, an increase first in the number and variety of specialized retailers, and later in the crush of what we now call big box stores, easily snuffed out any need for the general store concept. Sadly, as they've become less cost-effective, general stores have largely lost their appeal and disappeared from the American landscape today, outside of a few particularly rural and far-flung communities. What you might not know, though, is that two of the oldest and longest operating retailers in America are, or in one case were, general stores right here in Rhode Island. The first and oldest of these stores is unfortunately no longer with us. Literal feet from the Massachusetts border in the town of Westport, Gray's General Store, located at 4 Main Street in Little Compton, was founded back in 1788 and operated continuously for nearly 225 years. It even served as the first post office location in Little Compton, beginning in 1804. Gray's was arguably the longest continuously operating store in the country before its closing in 2012, following the death of the owner. The same family had operated the store for 7 generations, but the surviving members opted to shut down due to the financial difficulties brought on by modern competition. Although the store reopened for a time in 2013, another victim of the disappointment of 2020, it closed again and currently awaits its next opportunity to breathe new life. Meanwhile, 47 miles away in the opposite corner of the state, the formerly second oldest and now oldest continually operating country store, Brown & Hopkins, helps to carry on the tradition of the country store today. Their story begins in 1799 when local resident Timothy Wilmarth built his residence and hattery on Main Street in Chepachet. The building was sold in 1809 to Ira Evans, who first opened the location as a country store that year. The business continued to operate through several ownership changes when in 1921 it was renamed Brown & Hopkins after the latest business partners to purchase the store. Around the 1960s or 70s, the product selection began to move away from 19th century provisions and more toward food and decor to suit modern interests, needs, and tastes. In 2004, when the location was again up for sale, Rhode Island native Elizabeth Yule became the business's 19th owner-operator. Elizabeth had her roots in the country store business, so the transition seemed natural for her. While the variety of items today may not be quite as diverse as they were 100 or more years ago, it is nonetheless impressive still. The store is packed with an amazing selection of home decor, candles, gourmet foods, toys, candies, and more, much of which is locally sourced where possible. Some vintage products and displays, though not for sale, are thoughtfully and seamlessly incorporated into the modern merchandise and add a wonderful and interesting bit of history and context to the shopping experience. It's worth checking out, even if only to window shop the displays brimming with a mix of new and vintage products. Leading up to Thanksgiving each year, the store transforms into a Christmas and holiday-themed winter wonderland overflowing with interesting and creative gifts. Located at 1179 Putnam Pike in Chepachet, they're not alone on a bustling, historic Main Street that takes you back in time. A number of different businesses and eateries make the trip more than worthwhile for an afternoon of shopping while taking in the historic sights. Brown & Hopkins and the historic Chepachet Town Center draw visitors and tourists from all over, so if you live in Rhode Island or nearby Massachusetts or Connecticut, I highly recommend you check them out. especially if you've got some holiday shopping left to do this season. But hurry up, as I'm told their holiday inventory moves fast. If you're still here, then thank you for watching the video all the way through to the end. I really hope you enjoyed it, maybe learned a little something, or were even inspired enough to go check out Brown & Hopkins for yourself. If so, then I'd appreciate it if you'd take a second to hit the thumbs up, and if not, then feel free to hit the thumbs down. Either way, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel for more new videos and shorts all the time, and when you do, make sure you tap the bell so you don't miss getting a notification every time I publish a new video. Lastly, I've also included some information and links down in the description in case you're interested in learning any more about the topics covered in today's video. Don't forget, remembering and retelling Rhode Island's history is important because Rhode Island's history is our history. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.